Quote, I am ashamed as a lawyer that there is no justice being done and barely a complaint being made about it. I am ashamed as a human being that we ignore their cries for help. We know that what we have before us in genocide, and we know that it is still ongoing, and we know exactly who the perpetrators are. Unquote, Amal Clooney. For the past 5 years, ISIS has targeted the Yazidi minority of northern Iraq, using many forms of psychological and physical terror. Among the mass murder, which has now been internationally recognized as genocide, an arguably darker, more painful approach has been taken in relation to young girls and women: sex trafficking. ISIS captive survivors from the Yazidi minority, such as Nadia Murad, along with her attorney Amal Clooney, have spoken to the United Nations twice, and with the 2.5 years between their speeches, no efforts, no investigations, and not a complaint has been made to help these women and girls in captivity. The United Nations has failed to make any effort to bring ISIS to justice on the sex trafficking of the Yazidi women of Iraq. After 2.5 years, the UN has not put a proposal for a vote that would approve an investigation into sex trafficking crimes of ISIS militants, even though cooperation from the Iraqi government is not needed under Chapter 7 of the United Nations Charter. The United Nations needs to stop avoiding bringing ISIS captors of the Yazidi women to justice, and they need to take initiative of opening an investigation because of the horrendous numbers of captives and the many international laws being broken. The number of women and girls in captivity is alarming. Nadia Murad, a Yazidi and a survivor of sex trafficking by the ISIS militants, was one of more than 5,000 Yazidi women captured and taken into slavery in 2014. In 1 year, ISIS was able to capture more than 5,000 women and kill tens of thousands others. In 1 year, ISIS was able to take away 1% of the whole population of the Yazidis and force some into sex trafficking. It was 1 whole year of women being brutally taken, and the United Nations did nothing. More than 5,000 women, 1% of the population, may not seem like a lot to Western and other countries, considering the vast populations like the United States has 325.7 million people, but a small minority consisting of only 700,000 people, that is a lot in 1 year. Not to mention that this percentage is not only of those who were trafficked, but those who were also victims of genocide. It is disgusting to think that the United Nations, an organization made to protect people, cannot even acknowledge, nonetheless act on this epidemic. Besides the lack of humanity being shown from the UN has shown lack of consistency in regards to upholding their responsibility to international law and punishing those who break them. So far, none of the ISIS militants who have been linked to sex trafficking have been prosecuted. The Jerusalem Times cites that ISIS crimes have always been, quote, dismissed and even whitewashed, end quote. And they're not wrong. For example, countries such as England have been known to punish ISIS followers by stripping them of their citizenship and sending them back to countries where some officials condone their efforts, thus setting these terrorists free. Instead of dealing with issues, countries are not upholding their responsibility within the Rome Statute that establishes an international criminal court. According to the International Criminal Court's website, the ICC is a court that prosecutes, quote, genocide, crimes against humanities, and war crimes, end quote. And this court specifically is in partnership with the United Nations. Sex trafficking falls under crimes against humanity, yet not a single captor has been prosecuted. Why is that? Why is the United Nations ignoring the fact that crimes against humanity are being committed? Why has nothing been done even though, quote, 70 countries have signed on for the coalition against ISIS? Some officials have noted that Iraq has not signed a letter allowing the UN to investigate, but that is not a substantial claim. Although that is true, the countries facing these problems have not signed a letter. During Amal Clooney's speech in September of 2017, she notes that under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter, they do not have to. Chapter 7 of the United Nations Charter basically describes that if there is a threat of peace, in order to prevent aggravation, the Security Council has control to force all to comply with their plan. The UN has a solution, but they refuse to act on it. UN officials have stated that they are making progress with bringing these militants to justice by requesting a Security Council to be established for these matters specifically, but filing a request is not progress. The fact that it's taken 2.5 years for a request to vote is ignorant. The UN needs to stop dragging this issue out and create a real solution, a solution that uses ICC and various military forces to prosecute the perpetrators and give freedom to the victims. I embolden all in positions of power to urge each country's United Nations representative to put a plan in motion to end the sex trafficking of the Yazidi minority of Iraq.